So I am making a video about my experience with tarot and how I came to watching it, dealing with it. Like I had been in and out of church a lot of my life, and I dealt with a lot of, hardships. I can't say that my hardships was as bad as other people's were, but the thing is that I felt different. I felt like I leaned on God, and I really try to seek God and understand why it is that I was never good enough. Like I was always trying to be perfect. And no matter what happened, something was always happening that would pull me away from that. But, I had went to church when I was younger, and I actually had 3 incidents where this happened. Where I went to church and there was something that was said or something that was done that literally pulled me away. Like I felt so much hurt that I walked away. And the last time was just, being made fun of in church or laughing, and then people moving away from you and treating you like, like you're useless. So I just had to deal with it. But the last time I told myself I was just going to find something, a way to feel accepted, a way to feel complete in some kind of way for myself. So I just started researching ways to feel better about myself. I started researching ways to lift my spirits, and I came across these things, like meditation, and affirmations, just things like that. So, I would always still pray, even though, like at a point in time, I just felt like I was so angry I didn't even want to talk to God because I felt so abandoned my entire life. It's just, I got to basically talking to myself and, affirming myself that I was, that I was okay, that I was a good person, that I was everything that I am. And I had to literally just become my own best friend. I didn't have many friends. There wasn't many people that I got along with. I didn't get along with women at all. It was like a superficial. I didn't have a desire to be around them. I didn't have the drive to be around them. And when I did, I would only sit and listen to them gossip and fuss like I was over it. And so I was looking at these, just kind of meditating to these meditation videos, just things to make myself feel more attractive, to make myself feel more loved. I was doing that, and I started noticing that a lot of people were becoming to be friendlier to me, and I was happy about that. So, I kept doing it. And it was at a point where, you know, when you're in a place where you're alone and you're raising children by yourself and you have nothing, and my children had their schoolwork and different things like that, the stuff that I've always wanted to do, but I've struggled so hard with. I have always, I've just always wanted to be loved and accepted. And when you finally get it, it's like it's nice. But then you start dealing with people. You start dealing with people. Once you come to love yourself, you start dealing with people that cannot stand the air that you breathe. And when you're working on yourself and you feeling good about yourself, and people hate you and cannot stand the air that you breathe. And I would go to work every day and I would just get made fun of every day. This is just like one of those moments where it hurts so bad. I can't forget about it. That I would sit and I would talk about this stuff and I would try to get help and nobody was there to help me. And so I go to work, I get messed with, I get talked about. What's hard is that I was sitting watching the leaders, the people that were in charge, they were standing around just watching it happen. They wouldn't do anything about it. They was just watching it happen. And they laughed. They were laughing at me. So I used to, literally, I would go and I would watch the videos. And when I got into that, was meditating, and I seen a tarot video that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And it was like, okay, this is something new. And it felt you know, like it resonated with me. And I was like, wow, I got into it. I got more into it. And it was so positive, and I was just kind of moving forward in it and going with it. And what happened to me was that that was my go-to place. That was my happy place. Meditating, talking, just focusing on myself, loving myself. That became my happy place. And the more I did it, the more I get tore down. But I would listen to these videos and I would be listening. At one point in time, it started changing. It was talking about like somebody, two people, like this twin flame, something, messages started coming to me about some twin flame stuff. And I'm like trying to figure out what it is, who it is, like what's going on here. So when that happened, I was like, okay, this is getting crazy. I've always believed in God and that God was going to come through for me. Like I've always said and believed that God was going to come through for me at some point in time. But the matter is that I have always, I've just always sat and been so optimistic, and I was failed every single time. I would watch everybody around me my entire life get everything that they wanted, and I failed consistently every single time. So I started having kids. I started bringing kids here. And I just started focusing on that because I really tried really hard to get into school for nursing. But then it was like my brain shut off and I wasn't able to retain any information. I wasn't able to keep anything in my mind or in my head in order to be able to remember what was going on. So I ended up having to leave school because I couldn't keep up. And I tried so hard. Tried so hard. I went to school to become a nurse. I went to school to become a nurse and I couldn't remember anything. This was back in a long time ago. I couldn't remember anything. And 2004, 2004 or 2005, 2004, where I was going and I was working as hard as I could. At first it was like awesome. Everything was going awesome. And then my brain completely shut off and I was unable to retain the information, remember it. I was working extra hard to be able to just keep the information in my mind and I could no longer remember it. So I had to just leave the situation, because things were not working out and I tried hard to get help. I tried, I talked to the doctors and it was just honestly nothing that could be done. So it's like my dreams of being a doctor was gone. I felt so like in disappointment. So I started working. And it was always my goal and my desire in life was to just become a doctor and to have kids. And it was like I wasn't even able to remember the schoolwork. So it's like I just had to leave school and I had to get a job. And then I started having children. And things didn't get no easier. It just didn't get no easier at all. It didn't get any easier. I had to work hard and I helped take care of my family for in the way that my father, he couldn't because he was. So, it talked about all that stuff. The tarot. It talked about all that stuff and I was just like, wow. And then more questions and questions and stuff started being asked about who I am and what's going on with like me. And I was, you know, it was coming out. The stuff was just coming out. It was coming out. And I was really shocked. And when it started talking about like love, like I had been celibate for like over 7 years, and was trying to open myself up for love, talking to people, and it just never worked out for me. So what I would do is I would just keep to myself. I would take care of my kids. But at one point in time, it just kept talking heavily about some kind of love from something or somewhere. And it got intense. And I kept my faith that, something was going to happen for me. And I just remember a lot of the messages that were coming through that were just, it was positive. It was like addicting. At one point in time, it was like addicting. It was like reading a book and trying to decide where the story was going with that book. And so we went ahead and we went ahead with that. And what happened, it started talking about, I was in a place where I was like, I'm seeing people, and, the one guy at my job, his name is Gregory, and Gregory K, and he reminded me so much of my child's father. And every time I would see him, I would think about my child's father. And, I don't know. Like, it kind of felt like at one point in time, I was confused because it was like, I'm not really seeing nobody or dealing with anybody like that. So I don't necessarily know what's going on. But what I do know is that I'm just looking out to see who's coming, because they sounding like it's really close, like everything is close for me. So at one point in time, I started talking about not wanting something and becoming a part of a cult, like something about becoming a part of a cult. But I was like, I don't know nothing about that, so I'm gonna stay away from it. So I'm just like meditating and doing my own little thing. And then they was talking about something about some Illuminati, something about some 26-year-old or something like that. Don't deal with the 26-year-old or something like that, because they're going to, don't work with them. If you work with them, they gonna have you killed or something like that. And I was like, that's weird. That's very weird. And then some other stuff started happening. And, at that point in time, I was going through a whole bunch of stuff on the job. I'm trying to stay positive and love. I'm raising 3 kids that's just, rambunctious, and they everywhere. I'm having to deal with the, but good kids nonetheless. They were just being kids, at home. Then I'm dealing with the issues with them having to be around other people's children. I'm dealing with, I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. And in that point, I had just, it was a lot on one person's plate and shoulders. It was a lot. So I would always just had the hope that somebody would be able to come through and be able to just take some of the weight off of my shoulders, even though I know that they did not create it. But that they would come through and take some of the weight off of my shoulders and just love me the way that I have always been loved to everybody else that never received it from men. So, I I'm reading this stuff, and of course, like I started having a lot of issues on the job, and people were messing with me. People kept trying me and trying me, and it was bad. It got real bad, and I'm angry. And every time I'm angry in these visions and stuff, and there was a lot of stuff that was being said in these videos and the stuff that was being given to me by these people. And they were saying that what happened is that, the certain people started doing stuff. The one chick, her name is Devin Failer, and she openly professed to me that she was a witch and that she did a lot of stuff. And it's funny because a lot of stuff that was going on, I kept hearing something about I was going to know what was going on because I was going to know something about who, because I was going to be able to know who was who by something about some tarot cards. And I showed up to work that night, and this chick, she had those cards. And I was like, wow. Then I seen, there was moments where, the one moment where she touched me on the behind. Then I would watch her kind of grimming me, and I would talk to him about it. And it's funny because, I would catch him having conversations back and forth with her. And I'm like, they work together. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, I've expressed in the way that she makes me uncomfortable that this happened, and that you're afraid to talk and say things to people because of what happened. So I it got intense. And then I started talking about some energetic battle. The energetic battle or war, something like that, between two people. And they said it was going to get bad. They told me about and then there was other messages and stuff that was coming through as well outside of the tarot. But they basically were telling me that the situation that happened with work, and I had posted some the results of this one thing. It was talking about how the issues that were happening at work was not going to get any better. They were going to get worse before they got better. So I needed to work with somebody's team in order for it to be, and I was like, that I didn't really necessarily understand what it was talking about. I really didn't. But the issues at the job started getting even worse. Like, they were getting worse. Exactly how it was that they said that people were doing stuff, and there were certain people that would sit there and they would watch. They would sit and watch while this stuff was happening. They would sit and watch. And I want to say, like, at certain points in times, I was kind of angry. I felt kind of angry with Greg. Like, I didn't have a reason. Like, that would be my only reason to feel this way towards him, because I feel like I'm here and I'm suffering. Can you see me? Like, I need help. I need help. It was stuff that was going on, things that was being reported, and they just kept on. They kept on just putting it down and acting like nothing was happening. So what happens at that moment is that now there's a moment where they're it feels like they're turning a blind eye to it. But I was hearing things about like some kind of twin flame, something about saving the world, something about two people, something about it. Like something about aligning, something about a whole bunch of stuff about that. Then I started hearing stuff about, somebody keeping somebody from, this person. I was like, who keeping, like ain't nobody here. So I guess I'm just like wondering who could it be? Because I ain't really talking to nobody out. But most of the stuff I tried to keep it to where it was like I wasn't, because I didn't have nobody. I didn't really have nobody. I had, a person that I was looking at and I was, dealing with, but things never worked out for me. So I just kind of kept to myself. So, I'm just living my life. And these people, they messing with me. And, I had set up my own little system, that I could to catch them in whatever it was that they were doing against these people on this job at Whirlpool in Clyde, Ohio. So I had was just watching them, and I would listen to the tarot. I would listen to it faithfully like all day long. And at this point in time, they were saying something about, because of something was going on, they were saying something was going to happen. And something about I had to be slowed down or something like that. And I'm like, what? Like they were literally pinpointing, and they were saying at one point in time they knew. They said that you're going to know, like they was just at it. It was a whole bunch of stuff, like they were just at it. It was a whole bunch of stuff that was happening. And they were like, they told me it was back in October. They was telling me it was time for me to transition over. It's time for you to transition over to the other side. And I'm like, what the hell do that mean? Like transition over to the other side? Like what? Y'all trying to take my life or something like that? Like what's really going on? So as soon as that came about, it was like it was telling me stuff like I needed to transition over, and I started getting worried about that stuff because it's like I'm a single mother with 3 children. Like, what is that saying? Is it trying to say that it's time for me to go, or is it saying, what is it saying? So they started talking about kids getting kidnapped. They started talking about somebody getting kidnapped. Somebody being kidnapped, and I was kind of like frustrated with that, but it was like I kept listening to it so that I can kind of stay on cue or stay on so they was talking about some master masonry, a whole bunch of stuff like that, something about African healers, and I'm like, okay, I could hear that because back in the day, some of my people came from other countries and they used to do African, like healing work or whatever. But a lot of the people, my family members that are here, they went to school to become doctors, and that was my goal, and like so it was like, oh, okay, that's kind of accurate, that's kind of close. And then it talked about um it talked um about that. It talked about the kids. Like it kept talking about kidnapping. Somebody was coming to kidnap someone, and that was weird. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that. But at that point in time, things got real bad. It was talking about, keep laughing. You can keep laughing about it because in the end, they talked about like how in the end, they said that I was going to be crying about it later on a lot. And I was like, oh, okay. Like now I get it because they said that that was going to happen and it's definitely happened. So it's like whoever or whatever it is with the situation, they knew a lot about it. They did. They knew a lot about what was going to happen in the future, and they knew a lot about what was going on and happening in the past. And what they said was is that you're going to be crying about it later on. And I was like, wow, yeah. They were saying that, something about stopping two people from being together. And I don't get that. I ain't never been nobody to keep nobody from being together. Never. I ain't never, like, I don't know. It's just like, okay, you start looking at people in a certain way. And you're like, yeah, they're cute. And yeah, they're nice. And they're kind. And they're handsome. And you think about them. But they remind you of somebody else. And it's like your mind and your heart is confused. So you're like trying to understand exactly what is going on. Why is it happening? And you just kind of let it be that way. And it's like you're not acting on it. But, I've come to know and understand at one point in time it was positive. And then as I started doing more, I started hearing a lot of stuff. I heard the girl that was the witch started talking about the African healer and she's supposed to be here. And I seen the tarot cards and she was talking to the lady Sherry and she said that you're going to have to, he's going to have to choose because something she said about him choosing between somebody. So I was like, okay, so let it be at that. But this particular girl, it started getting, Devin Failer, it started getting even worse with her. Started getting even worse. And what happened there is that they started like catch me, and the tarot stuff would tell me about that too. It would tell me about how they was plotting to do something, and then one of the chicks from work, her sister came and was telling me about all the stuff that that this one girl Devin Failer had plotted with a girl named Laura Messner and another girl in the area about getting me in trouble because I did not belong there. That's what they said, is that I did not belong there. That's what they said. And I got that from one of the people sister that was at the job, but she didn't feel comfortable like really talking to me. She was afraid. She knew what they was doing, but she didn't really want to expose the things that was going on. But they didn't know who I was and they didn't know exactly what my story was. Like I seen all this stuff happening to me. It was like I was caught in a trance and you just don't really know what's going on, but it's like you're being sucked into something and you cannot come out of. So what happened was that these people they told me basically that they was putting some stuff, like they was talking about the stuff that I did, and at one point in time it was kind of shaming me, like, why are you shaming me? What I done did? I'm just living my life like how everybody else is living their life. I'm just doing what I do.